This is the stem stitch used in hand embroidery. It is a terrific outlining stitch. It makes a beautiful rope-like line. And it also takes tight curves very well, so it's excellent for detail work. And it's such a versatile stitch that you can even use it for filling by working rows of stem stitch close together, and you can even achieve a shaded look by changing your shades. So the video today is a little bit long, but what I want to show you is the stem stitch worked all the way around this rectangle, keeping the twist of the stitch consistent and working sharp corners. So we're going to start by working from left to right on the base of the rectangle. You want to start by taking a stitch length forward, then bringing your needle up about halfway between the beginning and the end of the stitch, keeping your working thread below the needle. Pull through, and now for your next stitch you're going to go a stitch length forward. You're going to bring your needle up at the end of the previous stitch and pull through, always keeping your working thread below your needle while you're working from left to right. So pull through, go forward a stitch length, come up at the end of your previous stitch, keep the working thread below the needle and pull through. You can also use the sewing method by taking your fabric up in kind of one scoop and pulling through, as long as you keep your working thread below your needle. The sewing method goes very fast when you're working with stem stitch. So we're coming to the end of the line into the corner here, and you'll notice that I can still take one more stitch, and it's going to be a tiny stitch into that corner, and I'm doing that on purpose. I want to keep the thickness of the line consistent all the way to the end of the line. And now we're ready to move up the right side of the rectangle. So we're going to bring the working thread up a stitch length away, and we're going to go back down into the corner. And this is how you achieve a sharp tip or a sharp corner or a sharp turn with the stem stitch. Now we're keeping the working thread to the right of the needle as we work up the right side of the rectangle. And if you imagine that you're still working from left to right, then it makes sense that the working thread needs to be to the right of the needle. And that's a good way to remember where the working thread should be in relation to the needle by just imagining that you're stitching from left to right. So we're going to work all the way up the side here, bringing the needle up at the end of the previous stitch and working up towards the corner, keeping the working thread to the right of the needle. Now we're ready to go into the corner with another small stitch. We're going to take a last stitch, relatively small, right into the corner, keeping the thickness of that line consistent. Now you want to move forward a stitch length at the top and then back into the corner to make the squared corner. Now as we work from right to left, we're going to keep the working thread above the needle. And left-handed stitchers should recognize this because this is how the left-handed stitcher would normally make the stem stitch. So you're going to work from left to right across the top, and when you're working from left to right, you keep the working thread above the needle. So going forward, coming up at the end of the previous stitch, the working thread is above the needle, pulling through, and working over to the end of the top of the rectangle. So there we go, and one more tiny stitch into the corner finishes that. So let's look at what we have. Notice that the twist on these stitches is the same all the way across here, all the way across the base, and going up the side, and across the top of the rectangle. Now we're going to work down the left side of the rectangle, taking a stitch length forward and coming back into the corner, coming up halfway between the beginning and the end of the stitch, and keeping the working thread to the left of the needle. So forward, the needle comes up, the working thread is to the left, and we're going to work down the line this way. Now there are a couple other considerations when you're talking about stem stitch, but and one of those is the twist of the thread that you're using, but you'll have to visit the blog to read about that. So there you go. Coming back down into the corner. Up, pull through, and the last stitch straight into that last corner, and that is it. So let's look at what we have. You can see that the twist is the same all the way around the box because we kept the thread in the right place in relation to the needle. That's the stem stitch. Stop by and visit me at Needle and Thread for more tips and tricks on hand embroidery.